Welcome, everybody, to our conversation today with Lauren Mayhew, who is a functional movement specialist. And aside from talking about feet, we're also going to talk about having an online business and what that's like and how to balance all the things. And just get very honest and very real and very raw about what that looks like when you're just getting started online. So welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Why don't we start and you can share a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Okay, sure. So, can you hear me okay, first of
I
all?
can, yes.
Okay, I'm a functional movement specialist and I specialize in helping women recover from plantar fasciitis. That's my specialty. So, I mainly work with women over 40 who are typically very active but are being held back by their feet. So, I have a program, it's called the Retrain Foot Pain Method, that helps women resolve their plantar fasciitis so they can get back to running and playing pickleball and doing all the activities they love to do and feeling good about themselves again.
Yeah. And do you have a prior history in working with this? Tell me a little bit about your history.
Yeah, so I have a history as a movement teacher, as a movement educator, specializing in helping people use movement to heal musculoskeletal pain.
Okay.
But before I went online, I was doing most of my work live. I mean, so workshops, classes, one-on-ones, retreats,
Mhm.
all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
which led me to decide to go online because, first of all, I was so burnt out. I was running here, there, and everywhere, doing all the things. But also, I was helping people with a lot of people with foot pain. That became like I tended to like draw people to me that were struggling with foot pain. So I was teaching like the same things over and over to people.
Mhm.
And at a certain point, I realized, number one, like I'm just one person. I can't replicate myself, so I reached a ceiling in terms of what I was able to do in a week. And then I also realized that I can't help as many people as I would like to because of that. And
Yeah.
so then I started to think about, could I make this into a program and put this online? Maybe, I just had that idea. And then I started doing some research, and that's kind of how I found you. And I started following you. And yeah, I mean, that was a long time ago now. um, but that's kind of the beginning. It was like I decided, oh yes, I can create my own program. I can
Yeah.
do that. And that's kind of where I started. I just decided I'm going to create a program
Yeah.
and put it.
And what I wanted to touch on before we sort of talk about how to balance everything was your niche. So, plantar fasciitis is really specific, but you said that you were working with people in the area of like musculoskeletal and movement and whatnot. And
Mhm.
so, when you made that decision to go online, did you know that you were going to get hyper specific and do plantar fasciitis? Or were you trying to sort of do movement?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was like not sure when I first started, like which direction I wanted to go. And I actually had like a few different pain issues that I was thinking about creating something around.
Mhm.
This was a big one, but there were other ones I was considering. And it was through the process of connecting with you when I decided I do want to create a program that really helped me to niche down
Yeah.
and be specific. And I remember, at the very beginning having a little bit of resistance to like, is it too niche down? Like, okay, it's foot pain for women over 40, it's like all these things. But I remember you saying that I had to sort of think of it, I had to think of it differently than being in the real world, because online there's so much noise.
Mhm.
And the clearer you can be, the better
Yeah.
about who you help.
Yes.
So it was a process of kind of whittling down, like who's my person,
Yes.
identifying, not just women over 40, but like active women, like women who are
Mhm.
being held back, who like to run and hike and are being held back by doing those things. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And I wanna just stay here for just a second because yours is so cool. Like, it's so clear when I hear you talk about it, right? And so the painful problem that you solve is plantar fasciitis.
Yes.
But lots of people have that,
Right.
right? Lots of people have that. And so that's different than just foot pain,
Yes. Yep.
right?
That's
And so
very
the
specific. Yeah.
Yeah, so perhaps, if we would have just gone with foot pain, then people would have asked you, "Well, I have this kind of foot pain, is the program for me? Well, I have this foot pain, is the program for me?" And you're just like, "Oh gosh."
Yeah. Yeah. And full disclosure, at the beginning, I was more general with foot pain, but then I was through the work that I've done with you and your coaches, like, and I've kind of, I did the zero to clients back years ago. And then I've had more coaching after that. And it's been a process of really honing my messaging because I realized, yes, exactly that. Like I was attracting, even though my program was really specific for plantar fasciitis, I was attracting people because I wasn't being as clear with my messaging. So I was
Mhm.
getting people who had other types of foot pain. So it was a process of both really working on honing my messaging and also like really realizing that the people who were absolutely getting the best results in my program were people that had that symptom.
Yeah.
So a lot of that work, like it was a process with a lot of like input guidance along the way
Yes.
from you and like the coaches that I work with.
Yes, and a lot of refinement,
Yeah.
right? You keep saying, really dialing your messaging. So, just for the people watching who might not even know what messaging is, do you want to share what that is in terms of how you get people into your program who have the painful problem that your program solves? It's through
Yeah.
marketing and messaging. So, what is messaging in your world?
So for me, it starts with, that first point of contact where, so I run Facebook ads and I learned how to do that with through zero to clients with you guys. And so it starts with that. It's like, creating that ad copy and selecting the images that will resonate with people, like all those little things that you don't really think about and you have no idea when you start out because you're not a marketer, an advertiser. Well, I
Right,
wasn't.
you're a movement specialist, so you
Right.
wanna advertise movement.
Exactly, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know about images and ad copy. I don't know anything about that. So that was a process of really, getting that support of creating the ad copy, picking the images, even what type of like I give a free guide with a few movements people can try, right? So
mhm,
even that of like, well, what should that look like? And what do I call it? And what do I include? So that
yeah,
it's enough where they're getting a little taste of what I do, but not feeling like, well, I'm all set. So even
yeah,
those little nuances, like I never would have thought of any of that. So
yeah,
then for the messaging, that's it all starts there, but then it's ongoing with, once they're in your world and they're on your email list, all the like the templates, the email, like the automations that you guys helped me put in place, where I have a nurture sequence, right? So it's like
yeah,
it's my words, but I would have had no idea where to start, right? So
yeah,
you gave me the idea, the template, the structure, and then I filled it in.
yeah,
And I had like somebody be able to say, okay, yeah, this does look good. Or you know what, I would suggest this. So all of that, the emails, the regular posts on Facebook, on social media, your messaging, your email,
yeah,
all of that, like it needs to be, what's the word? Coherent.
coherent, and I would even say too, and this is where I wanna connect it to the difference between your painful problem, which is plantar fasciitis that you solve, and the ideal client. And so, right, the messaging, the social media, the webinar, the ad copy, all of that is written for
Yeah.
the ideal client.
Yeah.
And so even if you were to talk about plantar fasciitis in a very sort of, let's say, practical sense, right? Educating 5 ways to get rid of plantar, like you can attract people, but they won't necessarily be the type of dream client, the type of ideal client that you actually want to work with that would then fit into community with the people that you want to spend time with.
Yes, that's such a good point. Right. It's not just simply educating people about plantar fasciitis. It's understanding that, okay, what are the challenges, for example, that women in midlife face when they have foot pain, right? So they're also facing menopause.
Mhm.
Usually there's, weight gain that goes along with that. And then on top of it, you have this foot pain. So you can't exercise and it becomes a vicious cycle.
Mhm.
And so you don't feel good about yourself. And, like there's a lot of nuances to the person
Yes.
way beyond the symptom.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, when we talk about, you know, having an online coaching program, and I get asked this question all the time, like, how will I know that this will work? And it's like, well, there's all these people out there who have this problem. So why wouldn't it work? Right. And the challenge is getting specific enough so that you are just talking to that one woman over 40 who has plantar fasciitis, who's struggling with her hormones, is gaining weight. And now you're talking to her and she feels completely validated. Like, why wouldn't she want to work with you? Why wouldn't she want to spend the money? Why wouldn't she want to come into your world if you're
Yeah,
so dialed into her?
exactly.
And like,
Yep.
why wouldn't she? Right?
Exactly. Yes, that's so it's almost like I think a lot of times, and I did this too, like you overcomplicate. And the longer that I've been in doing this work, I realize it really does come back to, I mean, you can have all the complicated,
Mhm.
funnels and products and this and that and like a million things, but what it comes down to is knowing your audience and speaking to your audience.
Yeah.
And not just about symptoms, but about how is this affecting your life? How would life be different if you didn't have this? Like really letting them know that you understand.
Yeah. And then let's talk a little bit about the actual coaching aspect and how you sort of balance the online business with life.
Yeah.
How many clients do you have?
Um, how many have I had or how many do I
Yeah.
have right
How
now?
many have you had? How many active ones do you have?
I mean, right now I've had a couple of hundred, I think.
Yeah.
And I started from nothing,
Oh, just
zero,
a couple
like
of hundred. That's fine.
200. I have
No big
started
deal.
from nothing. I still remember my very first sale to a complete stranger on the internet, and
Yep.
I was like, running around my house like a crazy woman, like I can't believe it worked,
Yes.
And now it's like here I am a couple of years later or 3 years later, and it's like wow, I've helped a lot of people. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. So the question you asked about, oh, and then
Like, how does it
climbing,
like, what does it look like now? Because I think
yeah.
that's a really good perspective of, like, you start with one client. But for
Hmm.
a lot of specifically women who already have full plates, I think the fear going in is they won't be able to handle it, right? Like,
Yeah,
what happens if it takes off and they can't handle it?
right.
And I think you're a really good example of that because that's exactly what happened.
Yes, you can handle it, and it's actually easier to handle this than it ever was to handle what I was doing before. Because now I have so much more structure. So the way that I do things, and this is still like this is what I learned from you and from Zero to Clients is I have my program, which is mainly online, and that the people are following the lessons week to week, on their own. But then I have a built-in weekly call with my clients. And I think right now I might have about like 25 active clients.
Okay.
And I have a weekly call, and you can come or not, and on average, I probably get, 8 to 10 maybe every
Mhm.
week, which I think
Mhm.
is really good.
Yep.
But it's manageable, and it's so much more manageable than one-on-ones. I know that there's ways to do it where you can do both, but like right now that I'm doing it this way and it's working for me right now. So I just do the weekly coaching call, and that's where I answer people's questions,
Yeah.
and everyone benefits from here. Here I just had my call today, which is like I'm kind of, and it was such a great call. It was like
I
there.
buzz too. After I love my calls. Like, I'm, like, vibrating so
Yes,
high after my calls. Yeah.
me too. That was like perfect timing to do this because I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, this is amazing. Like they're helping each other. We had one woman graduating and everybody was clapping for her. Like she's 90% out of pain, having not even been able to walk like 10 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And this went on for years, so it's just to see that and know that it's having so much impact and having the people be able to connect with each other, and also just being able to show up for that hour or whatever it is, hour and a half, and be fully present and guide people
Yes.
is a lot easier than doing like all these,
Yes.
piecemeal or when
Yeah.
I, answering all these other, questions individually.
Yeah.
It's actually so much easier.
Yeah. And I think it's also really interesting too. I wanna do a timeline with you because you've been doing this for a while, and in terms of like what your online business looks like in terms of systems, again going back to this whole idea of rinse and repeat, going back to this whole idea of how do we make it manageable so that we actually get to have a life and also the impact.
Yeah.
Can you just walk me through like what structures you have in your business? So you said the ad, and then it goes to a lead
Yeah.
magnet which gives them value, and then what happens?
Okay, so yeah, so I run ads on Facebook. If I give away a lead magnet, they can opt into that, and then that they are in my on my email list. And then I have a Facebook group, community, Facebook community, private Facebook community.
Yeah.
Um, so at that point, they're both like in my world, and I'm doing a lot of nurturing. So I do I send. They do get my nurture sequence. I do regular emails. I regularly post in my group. I go live once a week, so people can get to know, like, and trust me. And then I do a monthly masterclass. I do a monthly webinar, which is my marketing event,
Yep.
which again I learned from you guys. That I still do that. I do all the same things. Like, it's all
And it's just to be clear, it's the same webinar every month, yeah?
same webinar every
Yeah.
month.
Yeah. So you just like show up. At this point, you probably have it memorized.
Yeah, it's like, and actually, so I did tweak my webinar to make, again, to become more clear, honing in who I help. Like, I've refined it,
Yes.
but essentially it's like the same thing that I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
month after month.
Yeah. So you spend the majority of your time creating that weekly content, right? That's like where I spend the majority of my
Yeah,
time. It's with
yeah,
my clients, and
yeah,
it's basically creating content, and then it's doing like admin work for the business.
yeah. I would say
Yeah.
that's accurate. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's pretty much how I spend my time.
And I think that's it's hard to conceptualize for people who don't have an online business, where they think, because if they're coming from a one-to-one where they're
Mhm.
having to do all of this extra work, right? Having those automations in place, it's sort of hard to understand
Yeah,
until you have it, where you're really like you're creating content, you're coaching your clients, and you're basically doing admin. Like it's
yeah. And the more you do it, the more you're sort of aware of, like, what are the things that resonate. And so you're like, after a while, you're just kind of recycling things with tweaks, right?
Mhm.
So it's not like you're constantly starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So it gets almost, in that way, it does get even easier because you know the things that resonate with people, and you can kind of make tweaks and just like recycle things.
And I think that's a really important point in terms of this rinse and repeat, where, and I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but I have definitely had to work on this mindset of allowing it to be easy, like
Mhm.
allowing it to be simple, to the point where, we have, just like you, we have a webinar, we have all these things that work. And my instinct is to update them. My instinct is to do new emails. It's like, but we know that the way that it was before works. And so it's actually better to leave it
Right.
and not touch it. Like, it's what I say to clients and zero to clients. I'm like, please don't touch your ad.
Yeah.
Don't tinker.
Yeah.
Stop tinkering,
Yeah.
because we're not going to, it's not broken. We're not
Right.
fixing it. Like, just
Yeah.
leave it alone.
I've
Yeah.
definitely learned that over the years. It's like, if it's not broken, you don't need to fix it. And just, it's like freeing because it just allows you to focus on the things that are going to move the needle, the things that are going to, like, really help you get clients and work with clients.
Yeah.
And like, the more you do it, you realize what those things are. And like, constantly revamping I mean, if you're if it's good enough, like, you're getting good enough cost per lead or whatever, like, it's good enough. Good enough is good enough. And
Yes.
if it's working, yeah, don't spend your energy trying to fix something that's not broken,
Yeah.
because you're going to need your energy for all kinds of other things
Yeah.
that are going to help move the needle, you know?
Yeah. What is going online allowed you to do in terms of like having a lifestyle, like having a quality of life, and just in terms of being able to navigate both things, like growing the business and then also managing the life?
Yeah. By the way, it's very hot here, and I turned off my air conditioning because
Oh,
I
so are you
didn't
like
want it to
starting
be
to
loud. So if
glasses
you see
are
me, like,
sliding off your face?
sweating and my glasses are fogging, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that's a great question. And what, for me, um, I feel like there's like a lot of misunderstanding about what it means to go online. Like I even have people in my life that, good friends. I don't think they fully comprehend what I do,
Yeah.
or like what goes into it, and they're like, oh, so you're just like home making video, like what? That's a nice life, It's like, no, I'm working, like I have,
Yeah, I did
very
23 takes. It took me 3 hours to film a 1-minute video.
yeah, I
Like,
mean, it's not just like video, like there's a lot,
there's
and
a lot.
so,
Yeah.
but what it allows, so it doesn't mean like, oh yeah, I just make this video and I go to the beach the rest of the day. Like, no, this is a full time. I mean, I have
It's a
consider it a
business.
full time job. It's a business.
Yeah.
But if I want to go for coffee in the morning with my friend, and I don't have to check in with somebody and say, can I
Mhm.
take the morning off, or can
Yeah.
I, flex my schedule? I
Yeah.
flex my schedule. And to me, that's everything because it's freedom. Like I have the freedom of choice to like make those choices about when I work and how and
Yeah.
what works best for me. And I couldn't do that if I was working for somebody else. And
Mhm.
to me that's everything.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree, and I think that's one of the biggest, you're right, like, that's one of the biggest misconceptions is, and I think because people are like, "I want passive income." I'm like, "Passive income is not passive." Like, you're still working just the same. Um,
Yeah.
and it's the flexibility of time. That's the
Yeah.
way that I think about it is, the flexibility of time. My daughter had a medical appointment yesterday, and it was gonna be several hours long, and, you know, it was on a day where I'm supposed to create content. Like, I didn't even have to tell anybody I wasn't gonna be out of office because I wasn't expected to show up anywhere anyway, and so I just started my day at 1 p.m. instead.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
no big deal.
Right. No big deal.
Yeah.
And you are running a business, and so you have goals, and so if you're if you need to, for me, I feel like if I have to spend a couple hours later because I decided to take the morning off, I don't mind because I don't feel resentful because it's my
Yes.
business,
Yes.
and I'm doing it because I always try to remember the bigger picture of what I'm doing here. I'm helping people to get out of pain
Mhm.
and transform their lives. And so it's like not, I mean, yes, it's work, but if you feel really passionate about what you're doing, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel that way. You don't mind,
Yeah, sometimes when I don't know if this happens to you, but I mean, even doing this, like I'm working right now. Like this is me working.
Yeah,
Having this like beautiful conversation with you. Like this is work.
yeah,
And when I have Mondays is my coaching call day. So I actually do 3 group calls back to back. And when I just still I'd be like, I can't believe that this is like this is my work. Like because when you the
yeah.
other thing too, which we didn't really say about ideal clients, is the reason you want to have ideal clients is because you spend a lot of time with them and you want to like them. Like you want to hang out with your clients. Like you want to hear what's going on in their lives. You want to get to know them. And so I start my week with my clients because this is what it's all for.
Right.
Right? It's
Yeah,
that, like this is who it's for. It's for them. And so they get the best of me on Monday because I'm fresh and I'm this and I'm that. And I, just spend basically the whole day coaching. And it's fun. It's like a high, it's some awesome dopamine, and you know we really get to see the impact that we're having, and
yeah.
it's just a solid reinforcer for the rest of the week. And that's how I feel anyway.
Yeah. In fact, I'm like, oh, maybe I should change my calls to Mondays. I know what you mean, so you can show up like fresh.
Yeah.
But I think that's important what you said about to remember what this is all about. Because I think when you go online, there's a lot of like, well, it's all the tech, and there's the social media, and I don't want to be on social media, and I don't want to do video. There can be a lot of that. Like I think fear. I had a lot of that fear, and but when you really get down to it, it's like that's what it's about.
Hmm.
It's about your clients. It's about helping people, whatever you do, like
Yeah.
helping them to in their life, and the impact that that has because there's such a ripple effect
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. Like, it's not about you, you know, like I remind myself all the time, it's not about you.
Yeah.
If I'm afraid to show up on video or do that, I used to have a lot more fear around that stuff. It's like I had to really work on that.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's about that.
No. And I think that's really common at the beginning. And it's more a sense of not trusting yourself because it's such a new skill set, like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where we do want to show up and look professional, and no one wants to, this is my new favorite saying, is no one wants to look like an idiot on the internet. And and I think it's just because we don't have that trust in ourselves yet because it's so new.
Right.
And for some people, like, that lack of trust is just too much of a barrier to overcome, and they just can't do it. And
Mhm.
then for other people, like yourself, you're like, that's where the focus on the client really
Yeah.
helps,
Yes.
right? To be like,
Yeah.
I might look like an idiot on the internet for a while, but I'm doing it because I know that I can get you out of pain.
Right.
So, like,
Right.
excuse my tech mishaps, but if you just listen to
Yes.
my, like, this is why I find it funny when people correct my spelling,
Yeah.
right? Where I'm like, you're telling me that I spelled enroll wrong. Did you listen to what I said about the niche part though? Like,
Mhm. 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 Like,
like,
yeah, like, you have to, like, put perfectionism aside,
yeah,
and you just keep showing up, and you're just consistent, and try to remember every single time you're writing something or making a video, like, I almost try to sometimes just pretend I'm talking to one person.
yes, 100%.
Like, I'm just talking to that one person who's my ideal client.
Yes.
And then I can show up kind of more authentically
Yeah,
and just share what I need to share.
100%. Yes.
Instead of thinking like, oh my gosh, like there's all these people listening, and am I gonna
Am I
mess
doing
up?
it right? Am I doing it right? Do I look good? It's just,
Right.
I do the same thing. I
Yeah.
always think, what does she need to hear from me today? Always.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what does she need to hear from me in order to, you know, take an action, do a thing? Because it's true, we're all here to transform lives. Like, that's what we're
Mhm.
here to do. And the vehicle by which we get to do that in a way that also enables us to have beautiful lives is being online. Like, that's
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
period.
Right, exactly. Like,
It's
just
just a
because you're
vehicle.
online doesn't mean you have to or want to be some sort of influencer. Like, I think that's a huge misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And I think even, like I said, like, people in my life, when I told them I was going online, that's kind of what they expected. I was, like, turning into an influencer. It's like, "No,
Like a
I
fashion influencer.
I was like, "No."
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just no, I have a product, I have a program, and I'm just choosing to
Yeah.
deliver it like this as opposed to,
Yeah.
having a, what's the expression? Like a,
Like a
basically
brick
an
and
office, brick
mortar.
and
Yeah.
mortar. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And I think that the more of us that talk about it, and I think we are just, and I thought about this the other day. I saw actually somebody else say this, and I was like, it's so true that we are the pioneers. Like,
Mhm.
we are really the first generation of health practitioners
Mhm.
who are doing this.
Yeah,
Like, if we look back even 5 years ago, there wasn't to the degree, and we know what helped accelerate that. But, like,
yeah.
you look back 5, 7 years ago, wasn't like this.
Mm.
Not to the degree that it is now. And so
No, I
yeah,
was
go
just gonna say, like, for me, that was, I don't even know how I found you. And to this day, I'm so
ahead. Facebook ad.
thankful and grateful that I did. It must have been a Facebook ad.
Yeah.
But right away, that's what spoke to me. I felt like you got it. Like I mean, even though all the other stuff, the online piece of it was totally new to me, but that I felt that, oh, you get me as a health professional, like as
Mhm.
a wellness professional. Like
Mhm.
this is for us. Like, and I
Mhm.
do think that's important. And
Yeah.
for me, that's always been a comfort,
Yeah.
because I know there's so many coaching programs out there and things that can help you get online. But for me, that was huge. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like you got me,
Mhm.
like you
Yeah.
got me.
'Cause I lived it, and it's just, because, and it's interesting to me to look back because I have been, in this industry since 2007, where, like, before Instagram, before Facebook, before Zoom, like, all of these things, and just to see the industry shift and change to be at this place where, like, I can literally, like, we are the first generation of health professionals who have the ability to provide care 100% remotely, like,
Yeah,
100% online, licensed, regulated, non-licensed, like,
yeah,
100% online. And so what it looks like in 2 years from now, it's going to be different,
yeah,
right? It's going to be
yeah,
different. And what won't be different are like these fundamentals of like lead gen,
Yeah.
nurture, messaging, like,
Yeah.
right? So regardless, I think it's so important, and thank you for sharing. I'm just being aware of time. Is, you know, the fundamentals, whether you come to work with us inside a zero to client, you're going to have to learn them if you want to be around. Like, we're online, everybody's online. Those
Yeah.
fundamentals of lead generation, of nurture, of messaging, of your marketing event,
Yeah.
of delivery of program online, like these are fundamentals. They're
Yes.
not specific to Lauren because she does plantar fasciitis. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's such a great point, and I actually think that going forward, I just feel like I know those fundamentals. So even
mhm,
if there are changes in technology and there's, things shift and change, like that won't change, and I
right.
feel really confident in that. So I feel like this is like for longevity, and I can see
Yes.
myself doing this for a long time to come because
Yeah.
those things you can learn, the new technology or
Mhm.
whatever, but those fundamentals are going to stay the same.
Yeah.
It all comes down to like you have to know who you're trying to reach and
Yep.
speak their language.
Yes.
And all the
Amazing.
other stuff is you can figure it out.
Yeah. Like plantar fasciitis instead of movement.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
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 Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Where can people go and find out about you? Because maybe they need your help also.
Oh, for sure. Probably the best thing to do is you can go to my website, which is Lauren Mayhew Wellness. So Lauren Lauren Mayhew Mayhew Wellness.com
Amazing.
and message me through there. That's the simplest
Amazing.
thing.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope this resonated, and we will chat soon.
Thanks
Bye.
for having me.